server. And then now we should see the tool that we have installed here, File Server Resource Manager. So once it comes, you can see the things here. So we have quota management, we have file screening, we have storage reports management, we have classification management, then we have file management tasks. So basically, when you come to the quota management, we have quotas and we have quota templates. So mostly you will have some predefined templates here. If for any reason what you are looking to achieve is listed here, maybe you want to give everybody 10 gig, then you don't necessarily have to create your own quota. But if what you are looking for is not here, then you may have to create your own quota template first. So we can create a quota template and specify the size. Or we can say you should copy the settings from any of the already existing quota templates. So we'll give the template a name. We'll call it, let's say, Maverick, right? Maverick template. And then we can add a description. Then we can specify the storage size. So here we have 100 megabytes. Maybe we can make it maybe 5 gig. Okay, we can make it 5 gig. And then we will say it's a hard quota. Now the next thing is notification. How do you want to be notified if someone is going beyond the threshold? So you may want to add a notification. It says an unexpected error occurs. Please check. Exception has been thrown by the target of an. Please check the application event log. Well, let's try again. I don't know why we are getting this error. So let me click add here and see. Okay, so it's still failing. An exception has been thrown by the target of an invocation. An unexpected error has occurred. Please check the application event log for more information. So we can come to server manager. But let me close this and then close this whole thing and then probably bring it up again. But we can come to server manager, tools, and then come to events viewer. And then application. You know, we did not update this our evaluation copy of the server when we downloaded it. So if maybe there are some bugs and other things that have been fixed by the Microsoft, we probably won't get that. So let's check which of these will have the error. The computer is now hosting specified active directory. Okay, I think we'll be here. DFS replication service field to communicate with. No, but this is not today. What's today? Today is 22nd, so it's not this. And this one is also an old one. So which one are we looking at? I don't think it's PowerShell either. I can't seem to find the exact place where the error is coming from. Windows logs, application. Let's check here. All right, so it's here, FSRM. So an unexpected error has occurred. Details. Has occurred on the file server resource manager. Snapping has been thrown by a target of at Microsoft Management Console. So we'll probably have to check online to see what the cause of this is. But I am sure that if we are not able to create our own template, we'll just use one of the existing ones. And probably, I'm sure when this system is updated, it should be fine. Or better still, I can just restart my server and then we can try again. So let me just restart the server and then we can try again. But sometimes there may have been a bug in the OS, and because this is a raw installation that has not been updated, we may have such an issue. So let's just let's let it restart and I'll try again and see if we still have that issue. We'll just work with one of the already existing ones. But basically, that is how you set up your quota. You create a template and then you use the template to but while we are at it, if you have a question, you can just push it through. And also just for us to appreciate what we are doing, when I switch to the client here, remember the last time we enabled the drive mapping for the user. So in order to appreciate what we are doing now, we can check the size of the map drive for the user. And then when we are done configuring our quota tool, we can also check to see how it is. So as you can see, the map drive currently has 59.9 gig, which is the total storage of 60 gig. You and I know that this is a mirrored storage, which means that whatever drive is on the server is actually two 60 gig drives that have been put together as one. Restarting is taking like forever. So when we are done with our quota and then we check, we'll come to notice that the user has a certain size, the one that we specify in the quota management. So that is the quota management. The other thing is the file screening. So the file screening also you specify what type of files can be put on the shared drive. You specify what type of files can be put on the shared drive. Now, this is to ensure that users do not abuse the storage that you have on your network, because storage is very expensive to buy. Hardware infrastructure in a work environment is very expensive. Companies are spending thousands of dollars to get their hardware. So if people are going to put music and videos on there, that is going to be a very big problem. That is going to be a very big problem. So one of the things that you want to do is to make sure that the users won't be able to put whatever files they want on there. And I think one of the things that we did the other time too was we enabled ABE, access-based enumeration. And what the access-based enumeration is doing is that it's making sure that even if someone successfully gets one of your users' credential and they are trying to browse on the network, they will not have access to all the other shared resources because the person won't see that it's there. The person won't see that it's there. So when they log in, they are only going to see whatever they have been granted access to. That's all they are going to see. All right, so we are here. But have you noticed that our other drive is not showing? Yeah, so our drive E is not showing. So let me quickly check what is wrong, why we are not seeing our drive E. Because that is where our share files and our folders and everything are. So if it is not there, it means we are in trouble. So computer management, disk management. Okay, so they are offline. Our two drives are offline. But why would they be offline? Let's put it online and then put this also online. I'm wondering why they were offline. All right. Okay, so now they are back. Okay. So because the drive that has been mapped for the user is hosted here, that is, it's picking the total size of the storage on which the file is. So let's go back and try again with our FSRM, and let's hope that this time round everything will be okay. But if we are still encountering that error, we'll just use one of the templates that have been created, and then at a later time we'll take a look at why we are actually getting that error. But I'm sure if we do update our so let me give you 2 gig, and then we'll give the template name Maverick quota, and then 2 gig, and it's a hard quota. We want to add the, okay, so this time it worked. So here we can specify how we want to be notified. So one of the things that we want to do is we can say that an email should be sent to the administrator. And then we can also say an email should also be sent to whoever has breached the quota. And what we are saying is that it should generate a notification if the 5 gig that we have given him, he uses, or the user uses 85% of that storage. Then an alert should be generated and then sent to the administrator. A copy should be sent to the user. And the quota, the message has already been drafted. That's the user, and then the user's name will come, has exceeded the quota threshold. The percentage will also come. For the quota on, then the quota name will come, and then the server name will come. So the quota limit is, and so then it's there like that. So that is basically what the person is going to get. Another thing is we can say that they should, so you see, because we don't have an SMTP configuration on the network, we can't really use the email. We can't use the email. So for this to work, you need to have set up an SMTP on your network so that an email will automatically be generated. Just for the those of us who don't know what SMTP is the service or the protocol that allows you to send emails. So anytime there's an email server, it means that SMTP is in play there. But we can say that there should be a warning in the event logs. And we can also say that a certain script should run. So if we have a script, we can put the script here and say that when the person exceeds the quota, a script should run and delete certain files. Maybe it's file, depending on how the script has been run. Me and scripts, we don't really agree much. So I can't help with the scripts there. Then we have the report. So you can also say that the system should generate a report, and you can specify the type of report down here, quota usage, and then you can view the selected reports, and you can also say a copy of the report should be sent to the administrator, and the user should also probably get a copy of the report. So these are the thresholds we've set. So we can click OK. It says there is no SMTP. We just want to continue. So when someone exceeds the quota limit, we are going to get an email. We are going to get when the person is nearing the end of the quota, you're going to get an email. There's going to be an event log, and then there will be a report. For the command, we don't have the script. So we just click OK. And then we have our 5 gig limit. We have our Maverick quota here, which is what? A 2 gig quota. So from here, we can now decide to create the quota. So you can either right click here and select create quota, or you can just click create quota. So when we click create quota, the question is, what do we want to do? Where is the quota path? Where do we want to apply this quota? Are we okay? So we can decide that we want to apply this quota on the drive E, but we want to put it on the general folder, and we click OK. So we want to put the quota here. Now, the next thing is, what do we want to do? Are we okay? So we say create quota on path, or we can say auto apply template and create quota on existing and new subfolders. So I think this is what we want to do. Because if we say create quota on path, this is the difference between the two. If you say create quota on path, what it means is that it will apply the quota on the drive E, and it means that all the users are going to share the 2 gig. But if we say apply quota template and create quotas on existing and new subfolders, then it means that every folder that you create within that general folder will be entitled to 2 gig of storage. Please, is it clear? Can I proceed?
Please, you are following. You can proceed.
All right. So that is what it is. So we are going to go with the auto apply template and create quota on the existing and new subfolders. And then we will drop down and select our quota, which is Maverick quota. So with this in place, we can click create. So we just have to give it a little time. It will list all the folders and apply the 2 gig to each of the folders there. So you can see that it has listed the folders, and then it has applied the quota to each of them. It has applied the quota to each of them. So now, when we come here to our client, we come to our client and then we refresh this. I'm sure we'll have to probably close or log out and then log back in and then check on this again. So I'm going to log out. This is the server client. So when we come here and then we refresh this, and then I put my cursor on it, you can see that the size has changed. The person now has just what? 2 gig. Are we okay? The person now has 2 gig, and then that is it. So that is how you apply the quota. That's how you apply the quota. As time goes on, you can come and then edit the quota and then probably increase the settings and all that. But that's just about it. So when we come back here, it's the same process for the file screening. It's the same process for the file screening. So with the file screening, we have what the file groups. We have the file groups. So they've already populated some file groups. They have audio and video files. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel. If it's audio and video you want to block, there are already the file groups there. The only thing that you have to add is maybe if there are new file types, you can come and add them. You can come and add them. You can also exclude certain files if you don't want those files to be included. Maybe your organization, they have a specific file that a certain department uses. You can come and then exclude it from here. But with that, I'm not going to create a new template because there's already a template for block, audio, and then video files. So we can just write on this and then come to file screens. So it's the same process. You just create what? File screen, and then you select the path. So with this one, we want it to apply to the entire volume. So we can just say it should apply to the entire volume. And so derive properties from, and then we will say block audio and video files, and then just create. So just like that, you have this. You have this set, and if we should refresh it after some time, okay, this one just applies like that to the entire drive. I'm hoping will propagate to the subfolders. And if you want to exempt someone, you can actually exempt someone. Maybe you can exempt an administrator. This one also, you can create the notification types and then all that. Are we okay? And I think we have create file rule, file screen exemption. So if you want to exempt maybe someone, you want to exempt an administrator, you can also do that. Or a file, you can do that, and then you can also edit. So basically that is how these screening things work. So I know you would want us to test it out to see whether it works or not. And you know, this applies to even the administrator. So once it is applied, it means that it affects the administrator. So you don't even need to go far. If you see this file here, this Maverick file, if I decide to, let me go to view and enable the file extensions. File name extension. View file name extension, no hidden items. Now, when I enable the file name extension and I right click this, rename, and then I change this to, let's say, .mp3. Automatically, technically, this becomes a music file. So is this so the same way we've done this? Someone can also use this to bypass the security. But if it's a movie file, the person will change the extension to a file name that the person knows that it will allow the person to save files there and then. So you see, even though I'm the administrator, it says that what the destination folder access denied, you need permission. Meanwhile, I'm the administrator, but I can't put the file there because of the filtering rule that has been created. So that is how you screen the files. So now that this is out of the way, if you have a question, let's have it. If there is no question, let's go to the business of the day, group policy. Okay, Vijay. Vijay, your hand is raised. Please talk.
Yeah, I'm okay now.
Then please put your hand down. All right, so let's talk group policy. So group policy is a mechanism for controlling and deploying operating system settings to computers all over your network. Group policy consists of user and computer settings for various Microsoft operating systems. You see, this is grammar, but basically group policy is the reason why you would want to install Active Directory. It allows you to define what users can do and what users cannot do. You realize that when we joined our client to the domain, we couldn't do the things that we were able to do in the first place, like change the IP address and all the other things. This is because once you join any system to the domain, even when you have not done anything, there's something we call the default domain policy. So there are some settings that automatically applies to devices on the network. So even if the administrator is lazy and doesn't apply any policies, there are some policies that already exist on the network, and then those policies apply automatically to devices on the network. So you can configure one or more group policy objects, and then you link them to the associated Active Directory domain system object. So you can link a policy to either a site, you can link it to a domain, you can link it to an OU, you can link it to a forest. So after you link a GPU to a container or object, all the objects in that container receive the settings you configure in the GPU. You can link multiple GPUs to a single Active Directory domain controller, or you can link one GPU to multiple containers throughout the Active Directory hierarchy. So mostly when you are creating group policies, what you create is group policy object or GPU. So when you create the group policy object, then you apply security templates to it. So it says group policy objects contain the group policy settings to deploy to users and computers. So to deploy GPUs, you must associate it with the container. Again, it's just the same thing that is being repeated. So there are 3 types of GPUs. So all Windows operating systems have support for local group policies. These are known as LGPUs. Then non-local GPUs are created in the Active Directory, and then they are linked to the site's domain or OUs. After they have been linked to a container, the settings apply. So it's just the same thing coming again. You know what? These are all grammars, okay? So I'm just going to let us go straight forward and then look at GPU. Are we okay? These are all just grammar in there. So let's go to our server and then see how this is actually done. So in Server Manager, we click Tools, and then we have Group Policy Management. Group Policy Management. So when you come to Group Policy Management, the first thing that you're going to see is that we have our forest called maverick.local. Then when you expand the forest, we now have domains, we have sites, we have group policy modeling, and then we have group policy results. So group policy modeling is used to do a simulation of how the policy will act or how the policy will affect the users. And group policy results is used to check what policies are affecting a user. Let's say, for example, I get a job as an administrator in an organization, and when I got there, I'm not the one who did the configuration. Someone else has already done the configurations, but I need to know what's happening on the network. I can use the group policy results to see what kind of policy is applying to the various groups and then OUs in the environment. Then we have the domains. So when you expand domains, we have our maverick.local. So you notice that our forest is called maverick.local. It is also our domain. So at the end of the day, your first domain becomes your forest. It's also a domain. Then when you expand the maverick.local, you notice that under the maverick.local, there's a group policy object. So this is what we call a group policy object. And this is called default domain policy. So this is the one that is applying to the user, that the user cannot go to control panel and change things in the system. This is what is happening there. Then we have the domain controller OU. So the domain controller OU also has another group policy object assigned to it called the default domain controllers policy. So basically what the default domain controllers policy does is that it defines how things are supposed to be done on the domain controllers, or how the domain controllers are supposed to behave. So for example, a standard user account cannot be used to log on to the domain controller. Only administrator accounts have the privilege of logging onto the domain controller. Then we have our OUs that we created. So we have our finance, HR, IT, marketing. I think I added a risk when we were looking at the replication between the two domain controllers. Then we have the group policy objects. So the group policy objects, basically, it's where you create your policies. So you can see that the two policies that are linked up there, You can see them here. So you know this is a link because of the arrow that is on the side of it. And then this is the actual thing. So if you delete this here, all that you have done is you have removed the link that the object has. But when you delete it here, it means you have actually deleted that particular policy. Then we have the WMI filter. Now this allows you to create a filter to determine whether the policy should apply to a system or not apply to a system based on certain criteria that you put in there. So you can specify that a certain policy should only apply to a certain device when that particular device is running a certain operating system, or when that particular device has a certain amount of RAM. You can create this filter so that before a policy is applied to a system, the policy, the filter is evaluated. And this probably you may want to do this if you have a mixed environment. You have Windows 10 machines, Windows 7 machines, and other machines. You can use this filter to ensure that certain policies only apply to certain machines. Now, when it comes to creating group policy objects, it's very straightforward. When you right click this and you go to new, you have what we call you specify the name. So for example, we also have what we call the starter GPUs. Starter GPUs are like templates of regularly created policies that Microsoft has stored on their website. You can go and install it and then come and then integrate it in your environment so that you can always specify one of those templates. It has some basic settings that you may need in your work environment. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a name. We'll call this a test GPU. And then we will click OK. Now, when you create the group policy, when I click on the default domain policy, it says the permissions on this GPU in the sysvol folder are inconsistent with those in the Active Directory. It is recommended that these permissions be consistent. To change the sysvol permission to those in the Active Directory, click OK. So just click OK and then that will be it. Now, what's happening here is that we have the location where the policy is linked, and then we have the security filtering. Who are the policy applying to? The policy is applying to authenticated users. We don't have any WMI filter applied. Now, when we come to the details, it shows us the name, the unique identifier, the location. It's going to be located in the sysvol and then all that. Then and the GPU is enabled. When we come to settings, this is where you actually find something. So mostly, I think it works with Internet Explorer. And Internet Explorer by default is locked down. So when it comes, you can just click add and then click add and close. And then that should be fine. So this tells us the settings in there. So when we come down to the user configuration, there is no settings. But when we go to the computer configuration and we click show, there are some settings here. So we have what we call account policies and password policies. So this is the reason why by default, when you log on to the system or when you are creating a password, it requires certain characteristics to be in there because there is a password policy that has already been enabled. So this is the password policy in there. It's saying that it should enforce password history with 24 passwords remembered. Now, password history, who can tell us? I think I'm talking too much. So what is password history and why is it important? Richard.
Lou.
Yeah.
You're calling me?
Yes. I said, what is password history and why is it important?
Oh, okay. So password history. Let me explain it from the way I understand it. Not by the book. So the thing is, when you keep on changing your password, like anytime you change your password, it keeps more like a history of the hash algorithm of the password. So Windows will tell you not to repeat like an old password so that if let's say there's a bad actor tracking your password, let's say they've been already trying to break into that password. If you repeat the old password, it's to be easier for them to get it. So it is like I think 3 months password history. So like you can't repeat password in like 3 months, so that actually this is somebody trying to get a password, like the more of give up, not like let's say you repeat the password again and it will be easier for them to get access to your account. So that's how like that's what I understand by password history. Like and it's
Okay.
important. Yeah.
Okay, so there's some facts in there and there's some lies in there. We take it like that. All right. No, but he's not wrong. So password history is enabled to prevent people from recycling passwords. So when you use a password, now it says that the password history is 24 passwords remembered. So what this means is that you are supposed to use 24 unique passwords before you can come back and use the very first password. And if you look at the maximum password age, is 42 days. So if you multiply 42 by 24, let me get a calculator. (42 times 24). That's 1,000. 1,000 and what? 1,008. Divided by 24. So what it means is that divided by 360, sorry, 1,008 divided by 360. How many days are in a year? 365, right? Or 360?
365.
Okay. So that means that we are looking at 2 years and then 7 months. So it means that if we maintain these 24 passwords remembered, what it means, and you are going by the 42 days maximum password age, and then let's say that you always wait until the last day to change your password, it means that it will take you 2 years and 7 months to come back to the first password. So that is what password history does. Then we have the minimum password age. What does the minimum password age mean and what is its significance? Who help us? We have maximum password age. So what is minimum password age?
So let me try this one.
All right.
So with minimum password age, it means like let's say if you set a password now, you can't change it again after a day. At least like the next day before you can change it, right?
You can't change it.
Like if it's set to 1 day, right? If it's set to 1 day, and let's say I set a password today, I can't change the password until tomorrow.
Exactly. So this is to prevent people from trying to quickly run through the passwords and come back to the first one. So when the minimum password age is 1 day. I mean, as the administrator, this should be based on your discretion. You can specify how long you are going to do this. Maybe you can say 10 days. So it means that if you change your password, you cannot change it again until you have at least used the new password for 10 days before you can change it. I think at first, I think I'm a corporate. I used to change my name anyhow on Facebook. You see me today, tomorrow I'm missing. It's not that I'm missing because the name has changed. And I think now Facebook changed how long you can change your name. I don't know whether they are running out of names, but I mean, what's the big deal? So now I think it's 60 days. I don't know if it's changed. So if you change your name, you have to use it for a certain number of days before you can change it. So it's just the same concept, just at this time it's a name in there, but then it's the same concept there. Then, so the maximum password age is the maximum number of days you can use the password before the system will require you to change the password. Before the system will require you to change the password. That is the maximum password age. And then we have the password must meet complexity requirement. So these days, computers are becoming powerful. And so you may have a complex password, but that password may not necessarily be a strong password. So it should not just be a complex password. it should be a strong password. And in the Cybersecurity Awareness Month for this year, one of the goals is that you should create a strong password, and you can use passphrases. So instead of just trying to create a password, you can use passphrases. You can look for 5 to 7 random words and put them together. And I think when I did the training session for my organization, I came up with this concept, and I'm actually writing a paper on it. I've just become lazy, but I'll finish the paper very soon. That we should keep the password local. I mean, who even decided that when you are creating a password, it should be an English word, or it should be an English word that you have added symbols and the numbers to it? So we should try and keep the password local. It makes it almost unpredictable, because for someone to successfully crack a password, the person has a list of potential passwords or hashes of potential passwords, and they are counting on the human to be predictable to use one of those. So when they grab your password hash, they are looking to find one. You add some things in there. Hello, my comic kena. You put, like, I mean, those things in there. It makes it more difficult. And nowadays, when people meet me in my organization, they say, "Hey, that your password is very, very good. On the I mean, if you have a password, no contact, don't find. I don't know. And you know, like the problem with the local passwords is you're looking at the local characters, but we've been sending local messages, words in local messages, and then we've been using numbers and symbols to represent some of the characters that are missing on our English keyboard. And so it should not be a big deal when you are creating a password. So at least we have just learned our cybersecurity awareness slide for the month. So when we come down here, we also have the store password using reversible encryption. This is enabled because it is not strong. What this is just saying is that if I enter my password Luis, and when the system is storing it, you turn it backwards and then start with SIUOL and then store it like that before hashing it. This is not good. Are we okay? So it's been disabled. Then the next thing is we have the account policies / account lockout policy. So when we click show, this currently is not enabled. So, and this is very dangerous. Account lockout policy, you know, for anybody to crack password, they are guessing, either automated using a tool, or they are sitting behind the system and they are trying different passwords. So if you don't limit how many times they can get this wrong, how many times they can try, then you have a problem. So what the account lockout policy does is that it allows you to specify how many times someone can wrongly enter a password, and then the system will lock the person out. So these are, and then we have the account policies and Kerberos policy. This one has to do with user logon restrictions. Are we okay? Maximum lifetime for service tickets. I think I did talk about Kerberos briefly when we're talking about Active Directory. And then I told you that Kerberos is the authentication protocol used in the domain environment. And for it to work, you have the key distribution center, you have the client, and then you have the access server. So they use tickets to communicate. They have the ticket granting tickets, and then they have the ticket granting service. So basically, this is just listing the properties of that Kerberos process, okay? So maximum lifetime for service tickets, it says 600 minutes. Maximum lifetime for user tickets, 10 hours. Maximum lifetime for user ticket renewal, 7 days. Maximum tolerance for computer clock synchronization, 5 minutes. So basically, these are the things that the system checks. And remember that once you're on a network and you're accessing files on the network and the file is on a file server, you don't need to log on to the file server again. This is because once you successfully authenticated to the server, you are given a ticket that your computer and the server will use to communicate, and goes on like that. And they have the maximum lifetime of the user ticket is 7 days. So in 7 days, once you are in the office, the system will resynchronize and get a different ticket. But if you are not in the office, this is where sometimes some people have that trust relationship issue. It's because the tickets that they have as what has expired. That is one of them. Sometimes to the date and time is not correct. So these are some of the things that brings up some of those things. Then we have the local policies. So here we have network access and then we have network security. So basically network access allow anonymous SID or name translation. This is disabled. But we can, if we enable this, it means that we can allow anonymous people to access our network. And then we have network security. So do not store LAN manager hash value on next password change. It is enabled. You know, when we say LAN manager, you see when you log on, if you are in a domain environment, the protocol that is actually allowing the authentication is the Kerberos. But once you are on the local machine and then you are not even connected to your network, but you're able to log in, it is the LAN manager hash that is allowing you to what? Log on to your system and then authenticate. And it says what? Network security, first log on when log on hours expires. So if maybe, but this is not ideal. Are we okay? This is not ideal, but then it can be done. Maybe you want to force people's machines to be logged off when the logon hours expires. So what this means is that, you know, we have logon hours that you can specify that on certain times that logon is permitted within a certain period. And then if that period elapses, if the person logs off, the person can log in. But then you can also force the person to log off. But then this is bad, especially if the person is working. Let's take it as getting to the end of the month and the finance people are processing their money. And then you have this policy in place and then 5 p.m., the person is logged off. You are not getting your salary. He will tell you that he didn't finish and the system locked him off. So these are some of the security settings that come by default for the domain. But then every organization has its own need, and that will determine the kind of policies that they create. The truth is, you can't know all the policy settings. That is the truth. You can't know all the policy settings. But as and when there is a need, Google is just some few types away. You can just go to Google, group policy to disable this, group policy to do this, group policy to do this. They will just give you the steps and then you can just implement it. But then there is no one set of policies that you can say that, okay, this is it. Every organization has its needs. So that will determine the type of policies that you set for the people. We good? Any question, please? All right, so with this done, let's come to our own policy. So when you create the policy, the settings does not happen by default. There is no settings. I'll be okay. There is no settings. When you go to the details, that one is there. When you go to the scope, you also notice that here is empty, but when we link it, it will apply to the authenticated users. And one thing that you need to be very careful about, is the fact that when you apply group policy, it actually applies to administrators, because the administrator is also an authenticated user. So if the policy is restricting people from doing certain things, then you should remember that the administrator will also be caught in it. So sometimes it is advisable that you remove this until you are sure, because when you are in a hurry, you may finish, click, 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 and click. But the good news is that the group policy is no longer hiding in the control panel. In Server 2008 and Server 2003, the server manager or the group policy management was part of the control panel. So when you set a policy that restricts access to control panel, automatically you are going to be very, very hot in your life. If you don't have a backup, you have to format your entire server and start afresh. As an administrator. So to add settings, what we can do is we can right click this and then we go to edit. We go to edit. So when you come to edit, we have group policies, we have user configuration, and then we have computer configuration. and then we have policies and we have preferences. All of these contain security templates. So when you come to the policies contain security templates. And we have software settings. You can use this to do software installation. So if I need to install a software to 100 computers, 1,000 computers, I can use the group policy to deploy it. But the catch here is that the file extension has to be MSI. The file extension has to be MSI. But apart from that, you are good to go. We have Windows settings. So here you set the configurations that applies to the Windows operating system itself. So our security settings that we saw there can all be found here. Are we okay? Our security settings and everything that we saw can all be found here. So under security settings, we can have local policies, we can have security options, and there are so many group policy settings in there that you can't count. Are we okay? There are so many of them that you can't count. So one of the test policies that I want us to try our hands on is the logon message. Is the logon message. You know, users, you are required to have some form of logon message. It could be an extract of your organizational policy that the users will see right before they log on. And so that it always reminds them of the policy. And the setting that allows us to do this is one of these. So let me see with interactive logon, message title, and a message text. So these are the two, but mostly you have to specify the title first. When we click the title, I can say define this policy setting. If you don't know what the policy does, when you come to explain, it will give you information on what the policy is going to do or what the security setting is going to do. So when I come to security policy setting, I can say please read the policy before you sign in. We can say this and click OK. Then we come to the text itself. Are we okay? So I can define the text and say that access to this system is restricted. It's restricted to organize. It's restricted to Maverick. It's restricted to Maverick users only. Only. No social media. No social media on our network. All user activities are monitored. What else can I add? And then by clicking log in, you acknowledge that you accept these policies, just like that. And then you click OK. And you can add a lot of security settings to one GPU, or you can decide that each GPU will have its own security settings. It's all up to you. So once you are done with this, so the first thing is we created the object, and then we right-clicked to edit, and then we have assigned a security setting. So once you assign a security setting, when you close this, and I will come back to the details. Sorry, settings. Let's refresh this. You can see that now there is something here under the computer settings, but there is no user setting. So what we want to do is, once you are satisfied, the next is to link the policy. And there are two ways you can link the policy. You can just drag it and drop it on the location where you want it to be. Or you can also right-click on the location and then link the policy. So again, you can link the policy to the entire domain. When you link it to the entire domain, it's going to affect everything down there. Or you can be specific. If the policy is for a specific OU, then you can just link it to that particular OU. If the policy is for a specific OU, you can just link it to that particular OU. So from here, I have linked the policy. So you can see that when I come to scope, it is now linked to the Maverick. Now, the enforced is not enabled. Mostly we use the enforced. I'll talk about group policy processing, and then we probably will understand the enforced. Are we okay? Probably will understand the enforced. But for now, this is it. We have set a policy. Once you are done, the next thing that you want to do is you want to update the group policy settings. You want to update the group policy settings. So you open the command prompt and then you type GP update, GP update with the switch force. So GP update /force. Basically, what you are doing is that you are telling the system that you should update the policy settings and register it in the registry so that it can take effect. So when I hit enter, it's going to apply the policy settings. And once this is done, we can switch to the client. And because this is a logon screen something, we will need to log out of the client and probably log back in order to be able to see that the policy has worked. Okay, so let me just, because I have not restarted the system, let me just do the GP update in the client. So then we will restart the system. And then we'll restart the system. No, we'll log out and then log back in, sorry. All right, so I'm going to log out. And I'm sure once I log out, automatically, we should see our thing there. So you can see it's there. Please read this policy before you sign in. Access to this system is restricted to Maverick users only. No social media on our network. All user activities are monitored. By clicking login, you acknowledge that you accept these policies. So once you click OK, then now you are ready to log in. So that is basically how group policies are created. Basically, that is how group policies are created. It's that simple. The only thing is that some policies may require you to create folders and share them, especially if there are policies that are going to grant users access to resources. Like, for example, if we want to install software using group policy, then what it means is that we will have to make the software available somewhere on the network. So it means that we'll have to create a folder and put the software in there, and then create a policy and point the policy to that particular software. So I think one of the things that I will do is I will probably walk through how to install softwares, at least, and then probably look at folder redirection also. And then, yeah, the rest, you just have to decide for your organization what type of policies that you want to create. And I said I wanted to talk about group policy processing. So now, to best understand how policies are processed, Microsoft introduced something we call LSDOU. LSDOU. LSD and then OU. So when we say LSDOU, the L is for the local policy. The S is for the site policy. The D is for the domain policy. And then the OU is for the OU policy. So this is how the policies are executed. So when you are on your system, when the system is there and then the system is not joined to a domain, the system has a local policy. Even our normal computers have group policy settings like what we have in the server environment. That whatever you configure in there applies to only your computer. But when we do it at the server level, it applies to all the computers on the network. So once you join a domain, the domain is going to be located on a particular site. So if there are any policies that have been linked to the site, those policies are going to be evaluated and then they are going to be applied. Then if there are policies that have been linked to the domain, they will also be evaluated and then applied. And then if there are policies that have also been linked to your OU, those policies will also be evaluated and then they will be applied. Now, all those policies will work so long as they don't conflict with each other. When I say they don't conflict with each other, let's take it that at the domain level, we have a policy that says that all users are supposed to have 7 passwords. That's the default domain policy. But when we go down to a particular department, let's say the IT department, we say that the IT department, they are supposed to have 16 characters in their password. And so we create another policy and link it directly to the IT department. Then in this case, the policy, the password policy at the domain level will not apply to the IT users. The OU policy will overwrite the domain policy. Please, is it clear?
Yes, it's clear. It's clear.
Is it clear?
Yeah.
All right. So that is how policies are evaluated. First, the local policy, the site policy, the domain policy, and the OU policy. If there are no conflicting policies, then all the policies are going to work. So if at the site level, a certain wallpaper has been issued, when you log in, that wallpaper will show on your desktop. At the domain level, a certain password has been issued. That password policy will also take effect. At the OU level, maybe you can't go to control panel. That policy will also be what? Will also be issued. But once you have conflicting policies, let me show you what I mean here. So we will just create another policy for only the IT department. Okay, since our user is in the IT department. So I just create a new policy object and call it 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 message. IT message, and then we say okay. So we have this GPO called IT message, and then I'll edit it at computer. I'm just going to do the same configuration I did for the other one, but the difference is the message will be different. Okay, so yeah. So we say okay. So we call this IT admin policies. We say okay. Then the message, we say that this applies to all administrators and users in the IT department. No torrent, no Tor browser, no YouTube, no GitHub. Let's say this. And then we click OK. and then we close. And I link this to IT. And I say, okay, you know, it is the policy that has been linked to IT that is going to apply to the people under IT. And because the test and then the IT message contain the same settings, but different message, they are conflicting. So in these settings, the OU that has the policy that has been linked to the OU is what is going to work for the IT department users. And so we can check our clients here. I'm going to run the GP update for him again. GP, I think I have to do it on the server side too. So let me first run it on the server. Let me first run it on the server and then we'll go to the client side. All right, so it's done here. So I'm going to switch to the client and I'm going to do the same thing there. All right, so this is done. So because it's a logon something, we'll have to sign out and then sign back in. Hey, are you sure Luis is in IT? Come, let me restart. Is Luis in IT? Hey, we are in trouble. And if we try to restart, the system will try to update. So what do we do? Okay, I think I'll do it the hard way. I will do it from here. Power. Restart, yes. So let it run and then we'll check. But let me just confirm where this is. All right, so tools, Active Directory, users and computers. And then, yeah, Luis is in IT, so I think we are doing the right thing. We just need some time for the policy setting to reflect there. So I'm hoping that. All right, it's still starting. So basically, that is how the group policy is processed, LSDOU. Then we have what we call enforce. So the enforce, what it means is that if, for example, we want to make sure that even if there's a conflict policy down there, we want the policy that has been assigned at the top level to apply to all the users, regardless of what policy they have at the OU level. Please let's mute our mics if we don't have any question. Yeah, so we want to make sure that whatever the issue is, we want the policy from the top to be the one that is taking effect. And what we can do is we can just right click this and say enforced, just like that. And then it will override any policy that is set at the top there. It will override any policy that is set down there, sorry. So the policy from the top will override any policy down there. But then let's check if our client is back up. Hey, what we're trying to dodge, we couldn't dodge. It's updating. Let's give it a little time. Then the last thing that I want to touch on is what we call block inheritance. You know, we mentioned that by default, whatever you link to the top OU domain automatically applies to the things down there. But you can decide that I want the IT people to have their own set of policies. So you can do what we call block inheritance. You can do what we call block inheritance, and then it will block the OU from inheriting any policy coming from the top, or block the OU from inheriting any policy coming from the top. So that is block inheritance. But enforced overrides block inheritance. So you may also use enforced if for any reason there is block inheritance on a particular OU. You can use the enforced to make sure that that particular policy overrides the block inheritance and then propagate to the users and computers in that particular OU. We good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right. So let the client finish and then we'll check whether this is done. So we'll, after verifying this, we'll pause the session here. God willing, tomorrow we'll look at how to install software using GPO. And then if there is time, we'll look at the folder redirection and then we can rest the case on group policies. We can rest the case on group policies and then talk about DNS. And hopefully by Wednesday, we'll start with our cloud stuff. We'll start with our cloud stuff and then it means that we are going, because once this coming week dies, we only have 1 week for the end of October. And so we just have to make sure that we grasp everything. So if you have a question, you can ask. You're almost there. Oh, so how many of us are up to date with our lab? I mean, with the exception of today's session, how many of us are up to date with our lab? I mean, up to the last session we had.
You know what you mean?
Joshua,
Yeah.
oh, nice one. You see, this matter talk more. So we'll finish the session, then people don't finish their installations. We'll finish the whole session. People will not be done with their sessions, with their labs. But it's all good. At least you have the videos for reference. if this was like a live classroom where there is no recording and whatsoever, and you're not taking good notes, you finish and you get stuck along the way. And it's always like that when it comes to practical classes.
But the more we go, the more it gets tougher. So people will catch along.
Really, is it tough? Ernestina, is it tough? Ernestina says it is not tough, just that it's plenty. Hey, so the policy still hasn't reflected. I'm coming. We'll probably do. What's the name? You know, it's good that these days we don't have server certification anymore, because those times before you can get MCSE, you have to do four or five exams, and it means you are treating four to five books to cover the entire server, and each book is around 1,000 pages. It was really something. And this is just like the entry level. I mean, if you understand these concepts, if you're a security professional and then the system administrator is doing certain things, at least when you are going to question them, you know what you are about. The same way, if you know your way around Active Directory, it means that when you are the bad guy, you also know what to take advantage of and then what not to take advantage of. No, I mean now, for now, it's entry level, because I think most of I know one organization that is helping students acquire certification in ethical hacking, Educate Africa, and they just do introduction to Active Directory and then they move on. But for me, I believe when you understand the entire concept, it's easy when you are doing security, because security is like the last bit. So your networking has to be good, your systems has to be good, your applications has to be good. If you are good with database, it's a plus. Then when you are doing security stuff, you know that actually I have reached. So, but MCSE was at either at the intermediate level. If you look at the IT certification framework, I think MCSE is at the intermediate level. No, MCSA is intermediate and MCSE is advanced. Yeah. So it's not a big deal. Anyway, I'm going to run the GP update one last time. I'm sure later on when we off our machines and then we on it in our next session, I'm sure the policy will be there. I'm sure the policy will be there. I won't bore you with much. We'll end the session when I sign out and then we find out what is there. It's still the same. I'm sure that when I restart both the server and the client, we'll have something else. Please prompt me on the next session so that we just take a look at it. But God willing, tomorrow, like I said, we'll look at folder redirection and then software installation. And then we'll close the curtains on the on-premise. Then we'll go to the cloud and see how we can link the cloud to the on-premise. And then see how that bit work. That's modern administration. So you can either manage the things from Azure Endpoint Manager, or you can do it from here. You can install softwares directly from the Azure, the Microsoft applications and other third-party applications, and even manage mobile devices right from there. So we are welcome. Have a good evening.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much, Lily. Have
Thank you.
a wonderful evening.
All right. So if you have any question, you can put it in the group.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.